Hello ladies and gentlemen, Ghost here, and today I'm bringing you another short jet tutorial. This time we're going to be taking a look at how you can land your jet. I figured this would be a good time to do it because the September patch containing all of the CTE changes will soon be coming out, and one of those big changes that I'm expecting is of course classic mode that I went over in a previous video. So if you'd like to check that out, you can click on the annotation now to learn what classic mode is about. But essentially one of the main things it involves is no vehicle repairs. So if you're a jet pilot like myself, you're going to need to land the jet, repair it, and then get back up in the sky. Alright, so we're going to be going over a few different effective tactics that you can use here. The first one is just to find a large open area of land. Now, of course, it doesn't have to be in the bounds of where you play as infantry, because you're only going to be getting out for a few seconds and repairing. If the timer isn't long enough, you can just jump back in your jet and then out again to reset the timer to give you enough time to actually fully repair the jet. So the first thing you have to understand about jets in Battlefield 4 is that once you get close enough to the ground, your landing gear will automatically engage and your jet will slow down. But basically you're going to want to obviously aim your nose down, start to decelerate, and you really kind of have to stick it to the ground. You don't want to nosedive in there, but you have to be pretty vicious. You'll notice that you come to a stop very abruptly. It's not much akin to the physics in real life whatsoever, where you would need an entire runway to stop a jet. So, you know, don't be too timid. I really recommend going into an empty server and just practicing this by yourself until you're able to do it. It's a bit of a knack. A lot of people can't do it and they just crash into the ground, or they sort of skim along the ground, slow down, and usually end up getting taken out by the enemy jet pilot. Now, you are going to need to use a number of different techniques, however, because you're not always going to have a very large piece of land to land on. So, for example, here we land on the radar dish, and this is actually a really good spot. May not be the best spot for taking damage, because there may be some engineers walking around in there, but because of the curvature of the dish, you're actually able to land it, and then you just simply wait for your jet to roll backwards, and then start accelerating forwards once you essentially have enough land in front of you to take off without crashing into the edge there. Something else you can do, here we are on Parasol Storm, as you might imagine, not a lot of area to land your jet, but you can do something called bouncing, which is essentially where you get down close to some of the land to engage your landing gear and slow down your jet, and then you sort of bounce to the next place you can land. So as you see here, I'm coming in much slower, my landing gear is already down, so I can just sort of plonk the jet down on the ground there, and I'm not going to use up all of the runway of the actual island, so I'm still going to have room here after I've landed to actually take off again. Now, as I'm sure you all know, the F-35s have a hover mode, and if you're not sure how to use this, there's a video here that I made some time ago explaining that, so you can go and check that out now. But the hover mode is very useful on the F-35s, the main reason being that you can literally land anywhere, and the main problem with landing is not a landing itself, it's landing and having enough room afterwards to take off. But in an F-35, as you can see, that is not a problem at all. You just hit S or pull down on your joystick, hover up into the air, and you're away. So those are really all the tips I have to give you guys on this particular technique of landing. It really comes down to practice. Like I said, I would recommend going into empty servers and just practicing it there. It won't take you too long to get it down, and it's definitely a worthwhile skill to have. Everyone used to have to do this actually in Battlefield 3, because one Igla or Stinger would simply disable you, and you know, then you're just burning out, so you have no choice but to land and repair. So with classic mode coming in, this is probably a skill that you're going to want to have. So best of luck with that, guys, and if there's one piece of advice I would have to give you, it's that you'd be surprised where you can land and take off.